Watch this. This is our 12th week through the book of Joshua, and so you can guess that's why we're on chapter 12. We're taking one chapter a week, going through the book of Joshua. We've titled this whole study, Finding Victory in God's Plan. I don't know about you, but after 2020, I just want some victory, you know what I'm saying? And Joshua has been amazing for that. We have a leader in Joshua, we have the people of God, the Israelites, a group of people that are not perfect. We have found that out time and time again. Just like you and I are not perfect. But every time they are doing what the Lord is asking them to do, they find victory. So every chapter, we've been figuring that out. This is a very old story. And yet what we find out time and time again is that principles remain the same. The people aren't the same today. I'm not Joshua. Okay, you're not Joshua. The people are not the same. But the principles of the Old Testament stories still are true today. Why can I tell you that? Because our God never changes. I mean, it's so easy to think about, well, we serve an Old Testament God. I really like the New Testament God because he's just really nice. Right? So much. And yet the Bible says God never changes. So how do we wrestle with that? How do we actually think about that? Tonight is going to be a good chapter, Joshua chapter 12. Have you ever seen one of these before? I'm guessing maybe you haven't, so I'm going to tell you what they are. December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. 2,403 people died, over 2,000 more were wounded. A few years later, the U.S. detonated 2 nuclear weapons over the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6th and 9th, 1945, respectively. Those 2 bombings killed between 130 to 230,000 people. This is where there's a little bit of new information, something I didn't really know growing up, and maybe if you were in public schools, you weren't taught this as well. Before dropping of those nuclear weapons, these were leaflets. These were flyers that were dropped from the sky over Hiroshima and Nagasaki and other towns. Hundreds of thousands of these flyers. Do you know what they said? Next slide. I'll let you read it for yourself. It says, read this carefully, as it may save your life or the life of a relative or friend. In the next few days, some or all of the cities named on the reverse side will be destroyed by American bombs. These cities contain military installations and workshops or factories which produce military goods. We are determined to destroy all of the tools of this military they are using to prolong this useless war. In accordance with America's humanitarian policies, the American Air Force, which does not wish to injure innocent people, now gives you warning to evacuate the cities named and save your lives. America is not fighting the Japanese people, but is fighting the military, which has enslaved the Japanese people. The peace which America will bring will free the people from the oppression of the military and mean the emergence of a new and better Japan. You can restore peace by demanding new and good leaders who will end the war. We cannot promise that only these cities will be among those attacked, but some or all of them will be. So heed this warning and evacuate these cities immediately. We've been going through the book of Joshua, and we've gone through some difficult chapters, haven't we? chapters full of blood and war and killing, and then afterwards some more killing. And we've all had to ask the question, pastors included, why? I mean, isn't Joshua the hero? Aren't the Israelites heroes? And it seems like they've gone all Punisher and A-Team on all of these cities and just killed. As we read the Bible, we need to make sure we read around stories. If you had brought a visitor to church a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, they'd be turning to you and saying, you good with this? Are you good with, like, that's the God, right, that you're, like, really stoked about? You just, like, sang songs, really kind of lovey-dovey songs, what it seemed like. You love this kind of stuff. You love this God? He just commanded genocide on all of these cities. How could you do that? Boy, context can never be said enough in church today. When you read a story in the Bible, you need to read around stories. Deuteronomy chapter 20 lays out the rules of warfare for the Israelite people. We've been through this, but it's also a good reminder coming out of Easter. When you march up to attack a city, make its people an offer of peace. If they accept it and open their gates, all the people in it shall be subject to forced labor and shall work for you. What happened to the Gibeonites? That. Joshua was a general in the Israelite army during this time of Deuteronomy. He would have known that. So what did he make the Gibeonites do? Work in the tabernacle, kind of like what it says right there. If they refuse to make peace and they engage you in battle, lay siege to that city. Joshua 11:19 said this, that the offer was made but consistently refused. There was not a city that made peace with the people of Israel except the Hivites and the inhabitants of Gibeon, as if it was offered to those many cities. Now, does this make everything nice and easy for you? No. Does it help clarify some things, maybe? Yeah. Pastor David 2 weeks ago said something very profound, and I want to remind you of that God's plan for your life can bring clarity. I don't know about you, but I like clarity. I'm not a very complex guy. I'm pretty simple. Right? Pizza, football, those really kind of cool little sparkly drinks, bubbly, bubblo, something, all day long. Right? I'm not complex, I'm simple. God's plan for your life can bring simplicity. Does it make everything nice and easy? Will we know the answer to all things this side of heaven? No. Well, you're not supposed to say that in church. Well, it's true. We won't have the answers to all the questions that we have, and so guess what that takes for us to follow Jesus? Faith. Why would you need any sort of faith if you have every question or every answer to the question on the test of life? I don't need to do anything. I don't need to put my faith in anyone or anything. We need to have faith in order to follow Jesus. Just like what Pastor David said 2 weeks ago, that God's plan for your life can bring clarity. I would say the opposite is true as well. That living without God in your life can be very confusing. Now, anyone who is not a Christian, maybe you're coming here tonight just kind of seeking, maybe somebody, bribed you to be here with a blizzard afterwards. I don't know, we're just happy you're here. But is there anything that's really inside, deep inside of you tonight, that would say, man, my world is really kind of out of control? That was me before I gave my life to Christ. Even growing up in the church, youth group, all that kind of stuff. As a teenager, things really didn't make sense to me. And maybe that's you here tonight. Maybe you think, I'm struggling with everything going on around me, and I do not have clarity. Tonight, I want you to have victory in God's plan for you. Because I believe God's plan for you is to be here tonight. I think His plan for you was to be here tonight as we open the Word and we read it, and then we're going to pray again with one another, and then we're going to fellowship with one another. And then, you can still get that blizzard on your way home. But I think God's plan for you tonight was to be here. Chapter 12. I don't want to say it, but it's not an exciting chapter. Okay? It does not, there's no wars, no battles. This is a summary. There's a lot of names that, don't be proud. You don't know how to say them either. Okay? I almost said that word that rhymes with flooring. Okay? That starts with a B, right? I almost said it, but it's not. Because there's something at the end here that you and I can take home. By the way, that's my job as a pastor, as we go through the Bible, is to give you something you can take home. That's part of my job. I'm not here to show you how smart I am. I'm not here just to talk as loud as I can, to get you as excited as I can, because you have to leave. You cannot stay here all night. I don't think a lot of you want to anyway, but still, you can't. As a pastor, I need to be able to shepherd you as the sheep go out of the building. And you need to take something away from this tonight. So tonight's a challenge for me. But there's something at the end of this that I think you and I can take home. Verse 1. My sermon was only 3 pages, so that's why I could talk a little bit longer at the beginning, okay? But these are the kings of the land, whom the children of Israel defeated, and whose land they possessed on the other side of the Jordan. What did they do? They were on this side of the Jordan, and guess what they did? Now they're on this other side of the Jordan. That was a cool story, though, right? You guys remember that? The waters parting, them walking through, sounds a lot like something God can do, right? That Red Sea thing. So, just an awesome story. Toward the rising of the sun from the river Arnon to Mount Hermon and all the eastern Jordan plain, one king was Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and ruled half of Gilead. From Aroer, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, from the middle of that river, even as far as the river Jabbok, which is the border of the Ammonites. Really quickly, here's a map that none of you can see. Google Images is really letting me down lately. But this is what Joshua and the Israelites did. The little blue thing down there, that's the Dead Sea. The big, not so blue thing, the purplish thing up here, that's the Mediterranean Sea, okay? And this is how he did it. He went in the middle first. There's the number 1. Oh, you can't see this. Number 1, there's a little black circle there. He went in the middle first. And then he went down to the southern campaign. That's where the number 2 is, okay? And now he went north, the number 3 campaign. Center, a lot of battle. Down south, a lot of battle. North, battle, okay? And now they're done. Now, was this all the property that God gave to Abraham and Moses? Did they get all the property? No. Then why is the war done? Because so many times, God gives and gives and gives, and we just don't take. This was like 10-15% of the actual property that God was going to give the Israelites. And they just didn't take it. They stopped. Now maybe this was for a time, and maybe later they should have taken one. I don't know. But it was amazing that this is a really small portion of the land that God promised his people. Verse 3, the eastern Jordan plain, from the Sea of Chinneroth, as far as the Sea of the Arabah, which is the Salt Sea, the road to Beth Jesmoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah, the other king was Og. Man, that is cool. King of Bashan, and his territory, who was of the remnant of the giants. It's kind of an interesting title, okay? Who dwelt at Ashtaroth, and at Edrei, and reigned over Mount Hermon, over Salcah, over all Bashan, as far as the border of the Geshurites, and the Machaitites, and half of the Gilead, to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. These Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the children of Israel had conquered. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, by the way, that was Moses' number 1 title for who he was. He was a servant of the Lord. That's pretty cool. Nobody was called that as many times as Moses was. That was his number 1 title. Man, at the end of my days, is that going to be mine? When you're done here, is that going to be your title? Man, he loves sports. Oh man, I love playing golf with him. He had the best ribs. Oh my goodness, right? He was a funny guy. At the end of your days, will you be called the servant of the Lord? Boy, as Christians, that's number one for us, though, right? Isn't that like our priority? And yet sometimes we watch the way that Christians live, and it doesn't seem anything like that. It seems like they're just as concerned with other things as non-believers are, and just kind of day in and day out. It's about likes on Facebook and the instant Twitter and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of the same old, same old, same old. You put a bunch of people in a line, you wouldn't be able to tell if they're Christian or not. If you didn't catch it, I'm actually talking to myself right now. Is my life different? We aren't looking down on people, by the way, when we say that. I'm much holier than you are. I should wear a white robe all the time. No, we don't do anything like that. But my life out there should look dramatically different than the things that are going on in our society. I don't need to be a jerk about it, though. But my life should look and sound different than the way society would want me to live. Okay, where was I? You got to give me a number, man. Number 6? Oh. My wife's gone tonight. She's watching on Facebook. I love you, babe. You're in Idaho. She's coming. She left Thursday, man, and she's coming back tomorrow. I haven't seen the kids for a few hours either. I don't know where they're at. I have till tomorrow afternoon to figure things. She knows I'm joking, kind of. Oh, we're on. Oh no, yeah. Verse 6. And half the tribe of Manasseh. Oh, Og. Yeah, Og is a cool dude. Okay. So it says he was a giant, right? In Deuteronomy, we don't know how tall Og was, but we do know how long his bed was. It says in Deuteronomy he had a bed that was 13 and a half feet long. And he was a king, so it was the first king-size bed. That actually did a lot better than I was expecting.
You'll be here all night.
It was. Wasn't it?
I said you'll be here all night.
I'll be here all night. With that, I probably will be. Yeah, but that's just kind of a cool deal. I didn't know that. I looked in. I googled something. I looked over in Deuteronomy. I'm like, yeah, it actually says how long his bed was. Verse 7. Here we go. And these are the kings of the country which Joshua and the children of Israel conquered. So now we've got the list. It's a lot of names, a lot of places. I want you to take notice how many there are. Okay? We didn't talk about every single one of these battles, but I want you to notice there is something that's kind of interesting here. Conquered on this side of the Jordan, because they were on the east side, but now they're on the west. From Baal God in the valley of Lebanon as far as Mount Halak, and the ascent to Seir, which Joshua gave to the tribes of Israel as a possession according to their divisions. In the mountain country, in the lowlands, in the Jordan plain, in the slopes, in the wilderness, and in the south, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, the king of Jericho, one. There was only one king of Jericho. They took care of that one. The king of Ai, which is beside Bethel, one. The king of Jerusalem, one. The king of Hebron, one. The king of Jarmuth, one. The king of Lachish, one. The king of Eglon, one. The king of Gezer, one. The king of Debir, one. The king of Geber, one. The king of Hormah, one. The king of Arad, one. The king of Libnah, one. The king of Edulam, one. The king of Makadai, one. The king of Bethel, one. The king of Tapua, one. The king of Hefer, one. The king of Ephek, one. The king of Lasharon, one. The king of Medan, one. The king of Hazor, one. The king of Shemron Meron, one. The king of Eshaphat, one. The king of Tanakh, one. The king of Megiddo, one. The king of Kadesh, one. The king of Jokneam and Carmel, one. The king of Dor, or Duar, the heights of Dor, one. The king of the people of Gilgal, one. The king of Israel, one. All the kings, how many? 31. Corey, just skip to the end of this. If I was a king and I got defeated by Joshua, I want somebody saying my name. Okay? So we're saying every single one of these bad boys, now you can say you read through the entirety of Joshua chapter 12. 31. There were 16 northern kings, 15 southern kings. Now what's interesting about this is that the property that they conquered, it was about 150 miles north to south, 50 miles west to east. It's the size of New Jersey. Okay? How was there 31 kings in New Jersey? Okay? Not in New Jersey. They're over there. Okay? Right? But that's not a big area, because when you think of kings, you watch Disney movies, and the palace is all by itself, and there's nothing around. That's not the way it ever was, really. Okay? These were more like city-states. You guys remember how big Jericho was? Growing up, I thought Jericho was humongous. 8 acres. Jericho, 8 acres. Pretty nice wall around it, but 8 acres. Okay? One of the bigger ones was Megiddo. That was 14 acres. That was one of the bigger ones. So what did they do? They had all of these little city-states, kind of all of like little really, really tiny. You can probably see the other castles. Boom, 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 boom. And the funny thing is they didn't really like each other. Why? Because they were kings. What happens when you have kings? They want to be king over you. That's kind of how history has worked, right? But what did they need to do? They needed to make some buddies with some sister cities, right? We already saw that in Joshua, right? 5 of them got together and said, maybe we could take Joshua. These Israelites are on a roll. You know, we were scrolling through Facebook and we saw pictures of all of these devastating wars. I mean, we can get together and we can do this. And how were they ultimately conquered? I know that was kind of the 5-in-1 thing, but still Joshua had to go to those cities and conquer each individual cities. How did he do it? One by one. How do we actually get victory in this life? This just hit me, and we need to take some time. I'm done a little early, okay? And you're like, well, just dismiss it. Nope. Because we have to kind of understand this, because I think a lot of times people come into the church and they're like, hey, oh, you Jesus freaks, you're awesome. It's just like one day you're this way, and then this, like, you give your life to Jesus, and then everything in your life just is like a light switch, and everything changes. And yet, as you and I know, yeah, maybe in here, but all the things around us when we give our lives to Christ take years to change. I've always thought about this kind of analogy that when you give your life to Christ, it's almost like, think of a house that's been vacant for years. They cut off the utilities. There's no electricity at all. Years and years and years. And then you're like, I want to do this thing. I want to live again. I want to live in that place. That's where I want to be. And so you get keys to the place, and they turn on the utilities again, and they got to turn on the electricity, and you open that door that's been vacant for years and years and years, and it's in pristine condition, right? No. It's a mess. But what's happened? The lights have been turned on, so you can see it. If the light had never been turned on in your life, you would not be able to see a lot of the things, a lot of the junk, a lot of the clutter, a lot of the dirt that's in your life. But Jesus says, I am the light. I am the way. I am the truth. We give our lives to Jesus. The lights come on, and now we can see everything. And can we clean that whole house up in a day? No. What do? You take it one room at a time. One war at a time. One struggle at a time. That is the key. David's awesome. He's following me. One fight at a time. And some of you that have been walking with the Lord for a while, once you get from room to room and you clean out these rooms, guess what you do then? You start over. But thanks and glory be to God that the clutter in that first room isn't as bad anymore. And you clean, and you clean, and you clean, and you keep going, you don't stop. There's a fancy word for that. It's called sanctification. Maybe you've heard about that in church before. That something happens, a light switch is turned on, and then we work day and day and day. God keeps working on us day and day. There's not a time where I get to stand outside the house and say, I'm good, I'm done, no more cleaning, nothing else to do, day in and day out. I prayed for you this afternoon because I think for some of you, you're dealing with something. And we're not really good at talking about it at church or with other Christian friends because then we get embarrassed about certain things. But right now, you're dealing with something. If I hooked you up to the honesty wire thing, lie detector test, right? You would say, yeah, I am struggling with something. And it could be a relationship, it could be in your family. Right now, it could be in your family. It could be something financial that you're wrestling with right now. It's like they want that mortgage payment every month. Could be financially for you. You are just like, I'm really struggling with this. Or if you can recognize that maybe you feel like you are being spiritually attacked tonight. And for some of you, you're like, well, yes, yes, and yes. What do I do? Fight one at a time. Fight one at a time tonight. Well, what does it look like to fight? I don't understand. Like, I'm not a good fighter. I got a glass jaw. Like, what are you talking about fighting? Pray more. Don't you love that word more? Pray more. Read the Bible more. Go to church more. Be in community more. Isn't there a nicer way to say it? No. Because everything that I just said, the devil hates. I'm in the business of doing the things that the devil hates and God loves. Tonight, if you want to fight, pray. Tonight, if you want to fight the things that are in your life, read your word. You want to get into a battle tonight with the things that are going on in your life, get close to him. Never step in the ring with the devil. Don't do that. Never step into the ring with the devil. Your teammate, Jesus Christ, is like having his hand over the top belt, like, I'll do it. Never think tonight, I'm gonna make the devil really, me and him, I'm gonna get into, no, you're not hearing me right. You need to pray more. You need to ask for his help, his strength, his power. So what is it? What is it tonight in your life that you are dealing with that you do not want to deal with anymore? It's kind of one of those things, too, that, like, as we read the Bible, it's like God already knows. Like, he can read my mind. He already knows. So why am I holding back? God knows what I'm struggling with. God knows what I'm dealing with. God knows the battles that I am facing. And he wants me to fight with him in those battles. And yet he's wondering tonight, why are we holding back? I want to give you all this property, the promised land, and then you only take that much. I want to release you of sin, but I see in your heart you love that sin. Tonight, guys, I want to do something that might take a little bit of a step of faith for some of you, but we've been really blessed. I never had these at the school, but we've got altars up here. And tonight I want to end it with prayer. You're like, you do that every week. Yeah, I know. But tonight I really want to end this with prayer. If you're watching online right now, thank you so much for sticking with me all through this. If you're on Facebook right now, I want you to find a place, maybe in your home, maybe on your couch, somewhere, where you can kneel before the Lord tonight. I'm going to ask them to do it. I want you to find a place in your home right now, maybe in your car or something like that. It's really difficult. Boy, well, God knows where you're at. No worries. But tonight, this is what I want to do. I want to fight tonight. I want to fight. I want to go to battle with the Lord, not against Him tonight. Tonight, I'm going to do it. You know, Jared's going to play the piano here for a little bit. I'm going to say a prayer. If you want to fight tonight, I want to invite you to come to these altars. There's nothing special about this wood and this fabric here. There's nothing special about the design of this. There's everything special about what you do here. And for some of you tonight, maybe you need to take some action. You need to make a statement before God tonight and say, I'm serious about fighting. No. I'm done with this sin. I keep asking for forgiveness for the same sin, and I'm tired. Maybe I'm stressed out and I'm tired of stress. And it seems like, I get really excited to get in church and we get all kind of high energy for certain things, but then I leave and it's just more stress, more stress. Tonight, fight with God. Well, if you want to do that, I'd like you to come forward. I'm gonna start praying. That'll be kind of the ticker right there, right? I'm gonna start praying. If that's you, when I start praying, I want you to come to the altar and pray tonight. And what's beautiful about what we do here as a community, if you see someone come, do not leave them alone here. Because we're family. I had that said to me a long time ago by someone, I don't know who, but you never leave anybody alone up there. Because that's your brother or that's your sister. As I pray, I want you to come. As a church, as we kneel before the Lord and say, you know what, it's time for us to fight together. Because I'm tired and I'm weary. I'd invite you to come. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for who I am. Lord, you are God and I am not. I know the things that you can do because you've said certain things through your word. And tonight, your people are coming to you. We're coming here to fight with you, God, not against you tonight. Lord, there's some people right now, Lord, that they're crying out to you. They need you. And I pray that you would meet them where they're at tonight. God, we're living in some times where we're really good at kind of just snap-back decisions in our culture and our society. I'd say more than ever right now, we need to come before you in prayer and humble ourselves and say, we don't know. Or we need you. Or God, would you forgive us? But I ask you, God, that you would just come and remind us of your plan. Come and remind us tonight that you have something planned for us individually. You have something planned for your people. You have something for me tonight, God. Lord, I pray that as we leave this place here tonight, we would be a people that have been marked by the gospel. We would leave here a people that are dedicated to Jesus. A people that are going to say yes to making that change in our lives. I want to live for Jesus. I want to do these things now. Lord, I pray that as we leave this place here tonight, we would be a people that have been marked by the gospel. We would leave here a people that are dedicated to Jesus. A people that are going to say yes to making that change in our lives. I want to live for Jesus. I want to do these things now. which in Romans 10, we've got to confess it with our mouths. We've got to believe in that Easter story, too, that the Father raised Jesus from the dead 3 days later. And we've got to give that story to other people that they can be saved as well. Lord, help remind me that my calling is to go and tell, and you take care of the results. Somehow I want to be in control of everything. I want to be in control of all of my own evangelism. God, you're in control of the results. I just need to speak the truth. I need to come in love and speak the truth. So God, I thank you for tonight. This has been a wonderful time to be together in fellowship and praise through song, praise through prayer, praise through the reading of your word. As it is clearly spoken to us right now that we are to fight our battles. We're to do them with you. God, I thank you just again for tonight. We ask this all in the great name of Jesus. You know, I'd love to keep this kind of a moment of prayer here tonight. As I dismiss you guys, if anyone else would like to come up for prayer, I'll hang out here for a while. But thank you guys for being here. You guys will be dismissed. But let's kind of keep the place in here kind of a nice time of quiet prayer for those that want to come and continue in prayer. But God bless you guys. You're dismissed.
Thank you.